Strike Infinite here. I am a Diamond Heavy man, and I'm here to teach you how to heavy. So we'll go ahead and start with the specializations. We got the Mesh Shield, allowing you to cover for yourself and your team. It can be used selfishly, it can be used to cover teammates, bail you out of a position with no cover. Extremely versatile, very helpful in pretty much all situations. Now we've got Winch Claw. You can grab players, items, your teammates' dead bodies, and the cash out. The Goo Gun allows you to create goo, kind of like a goo grenade, but there's pretty much no limit. You just have to reload it. That's the only cooldown. You can make bridges to get to high ground, make stuff like this, get to roofs, mess with parkour. Or, the best use case of it is if we wait for this dummy to come back around, you can prevent people from escaping you / block their vision. So what you do is you hit them in the upper body, and they essentially can't see, and they are movement locked. So pairing this with flamethrower, sledgehammer, any weapon where you want to get in close or restrict an opponent's mobility, very powerful. Lastly, we have the good old Charge and Slam, deals good damage. It shoves people, so you can shove people off cash out. And always remember, you can hit people multiple times with it. So it's hard to hit people more than twice with it, but it is possible to kill someone with it. For example. Just like that. Tough, but possible. Alright, I'll start this little section out by saying if you're a casual player, use whatever you want. However, if you use heavy competitively, do not use these three weapons. This would be the MGL, the Spear, and the KS-23. Okay, so why do these suck? I can give a whole list of reasons on the MGL. I'm not even gonna talk about it here. If you really want to know, it seems good on paper maybe. If you really want to know how bad it is, go play a game or two with it. If you're a brand new heavy, those two games are going to be hell. When this weapon shines, it doesn't shine that bright, and when it fails spectacularly. So you can one-trick it, but I'm just going to say you expect to put in 1,000 hours before you expect to do well in higher ranks. Never seen this thing in higher ranks. The Spear is just inferior to Sledgehammer. The time to kill is worse. You get a little bit more range due to it being a spear, but the range is so negligible that it doesn't really matter. You do have the 360, which can hit multiple people, but that's kind of wonky. The Sledgehammer can also multi-hit people, and you also have zero destruction as compared to the Sledgehammer's complete and total destruction of anything you want to break. So the KS-23 is a mess. It's terrible. So, no shotguns in the game can hit crits, so even though it's a slug shotgun, headshots are not rewarded remotely. All shotguns in the game also do not have any hipfire penalties, except this one. It does. It also has really bad ammo economy, because you only get 6 rounds, which you have to reload one at a time, no mag reload. And it is able to break walls, 3 shots. 3 shots assuming you're within range. However, you're spending half of your magazine mid-gunfight to break a singular wall. It is really not worth it. You can peek fire with it, you can break some terrain. Everything else about it sucks. Never seen it used in Platinum and Diamond. It's just terrible. Alright, moving from the bad to the good, we're starting off with the M60. The M60 is one of 4 automatic weapons, sporting a 70-round magazine, with a high rate of fire, great total damage, and is capable of performing well in close to medium range. The reload is very long, so be cautious when you're using it. The hip fire is usable, it's okay, not exceptional. And this recoil, the spray, it's not bad. It's extremely vertical with a little sway to the left and right. Overall, very solid pick. Now we've got the M60's brother, the Louis gun. So the Louis gun sports a 47-round mag, and is more viable at a longer range. It has a slightly lower DPS, and a much more harsh, harder to use recoil pattern. It is very similar. It used to be king. Its hip fire is also just kind of okay. Overall, I used to love this thing, but the recoil pattern compared to the other automatics on heavy, I cannot greatly recommend it. As you'll see, it'll pull very hard on the left and right, as well as have pretty high vertical recoil. Viable, but wouldn't recommend. The minigun is possibly the most powerful weapon in the entire game, as it has the highest DPS. However, It is range capped due to it having not insanely high range and very high spread, while also having a long reload and having a very long spin-up time on the minigun, which can very much get you killed. The best way to use this is to be able to B-hop while spinning up and shooting, as I display here. However, just know that they will most likely remove this from the game, as they mention it in the patch notes, and they might take this tech away. The Shack 50 is a very potent, heavy assault rifle that has a 20-round mag. However, it has less range than both of the LMGs. Every bullet shoots 2 projectiles, making it pretty much unusable at a long range. However, that same thing makes it highly consistent at a close to medium range, and makes it have very, very potent hip fire. It has the best hip fire for an automatic weapon in the game, and therefore pairs extremely well with the winch claw specifically. It has a quicker reload than both the other LMGs on heavy, and as I said, faster TTK. So it feels quite different, but very powerful. The low rate of fire and almost completely vertical recoil makes the pattern of the Shack extremely easy to control. The 50 Akimbo are one of the best, if not the best weapon in the heavies arsenal. They have extremely fast time to kill, they have very high range, very good aim per mag, assuming you hit your headshots. A very good reload in comparison to such as the M60 or minigun, which have very long reloads. They are usable at close quarters with their hip fire, however you still want to aim for the head. This is the most optimal. Extremely high skill and required precision. The Akimbo has very, very light recoil, the weapon barely bounces, however it does not make it any easier to hit your headshots. The SA-12-16 used to be almost, I would say, the definitive best weapon on heavy. It is a very close quarters burst fire spread shotgun, and remember, aiming down sights does not give you any benefit with shotguns in the finals, other than the KH-23. Anyways, it pairs extremely well with the winch claw to pull someone, as it does have next to zero range. And it also pairs extremely well with the mesh shield, as the mesh shield can somewhat animation cancel, and it can protect you between bursts, as you do have 4 bursts before you have to reload, and you have to take a brief pause between every single reload. Very powerful close range option. The flamethrower is one of my favorite weapons in the game. It does have the lowest time to kill, however, it's the only weapon that has damage over time. And because of that, you can use the mesh shield in combination, where you start flaming someone, and then rather than holding down the trigger and you taking a lot of damage when they shoot you, the shield just takes it. And then you let them get a little low, or you let the burn run out, and then you reflame them. It's also very potent with charge and slam, as you can start the flame, hit them once or twice, and that will kill, either insta-kill a light, or almost insta-kill a medium. Pyromines, the burn from the pyromine does stack with the flamethrower, so it's the ultimate damage over time. If you get good at chucking your pyromines, it eats through people's health. Note that the flamethrower can go through both mesh and dome shields, however it will do reduced damage and not light the opponent on fire. Sledgehammer has the ability to one-shot lights and rapidly kill mediums and heavies if you add in quick melees. It pairs very well with the winch claw, and it also is able to multi-hit people if you swing it correctly or if you're standing close enough. Did I mention that it can one-shot lights? The goo gun pairs extremely well with it, as it allows you to trap people or close the distance or prevent them from escaping, whatever you need it to be. And it also enables movement, because goo gun. The sledgehammer itself also enables movement on heavy, as it allows you to just get through anything in the terrain. Most buildings you can just jump straight up, you can bring yourself down levels, you can go through walls. It allows you to push, escape, hold cash out. The sledgehammer is the absolute and definitive king of destruction in this game. So I'm going to do a quick recap on what to pair with what. And before I get into that, I'm just going to say that the mesh shield and charge and slam are well-rounders that pair with most anything, whereas the goo gun and winch claw you're going to want to pair with more specialized weapons, as I would not recommend winch or goo gun unless you pair them with a weapon they are good with. So winch claw, you want to use sledge, the SA-12, and the shack. The flamethrower might seem like it'd be good, but there are much better options on the flamethrower. The goo gun, you want to pair with the sledgehammer, and that's primarily the only good option. You could maybe run it with the minigun or flame. You know, minigun, you shoot someone, while they're gooed, you spin up, or flamethrower, turn them, escaping and flame them. I might try that, never done it before. Charge and slam, run with anything. It's great with pretty much anything. Maybe not the akimbo, because you generally don't want to be in people's faces. I think you want to have a little bit of range to get your headshots. And with the mesh shield, run also literally anything, particularly the flamethrower. Flamethrower is great with mesh shield, but maybe not the sledge. I think you have to have the winch claw and the goo gun to make the sledgehammer work. Alright, now we'll move on to the heavies equipment. There are 6 equipment that you just do not want to use because they are not very good or they are not optimal. First is the gravity cube. First of all, you can just shoot it. So, anyone can just shoot it. Now, while it does lift all rubble and objects and players and the cash out, unless it's an outside point, sticking them up in the air may or may not help them to give them cover, like behind objects. It makes it a little more unpredictable, which may help the enemy. It can also mess with your team's movement. And if you're looking for vertical height, 2 goo grenades properly placed could scale this building, which goo grenades actually have more function. So overall, not very optimal, can mess with your team, wouldn't recommend using it. Next up, we have the gas grenade. This is available in every class, and I think it's one of the most useless gadgets in the entire game. So you chug it, you get a gas cloud. So what you can do is you just grab a toxic barrel, a gas barrel, melee, and then throw. And then you'll get your gas cloud. Alright, third gadget you don't want to use, flashbangs. The issue with flashbangs is not only can you flashbang yourself, duh, however, you can flashbang your teammates. So if your teammate's also right next to you, he happens to see it, well now he's cooked for the next 2 to 3 seconds. And it's just a double-edged sword that it can really just screw with your teammates. Alright, next we have the proximity sensor, available on medium and heavy. Honestly, not super impressed. It's got decent ping range, you know, you can see out from there. However, it's really easy to just shoot. It takes like 2 bullets. Any sort of explosive that goes around can get rid of it. It is very nice to know where people are through a wall. Oh, that should be showing, but it doesn't work. Okay, that's bugging out. It should show. But generally just not worth the slot. Sonar grenades on light are just way better. Like, of course, you can't get sonars on heavy, but not very helpful. Alright, now we've got explosive mines. Now, why do these suck on heavy? It's because, first we'll go and see the damage. Half of a medium's health. You can also only hold 1 on the at a time. You can have 2 on the ground, but only hold 1 at a time. So now, let's look at a pyromine. And we'll be generous saying that he doesn't take a lot of fire damage, so he gets ignited. It's also going to be about the same health, except for the fact that they may end up taking a lot more damage potentially from the fire, and it puts fire on the ground and the utility of having, you know, said fire on the ground. Next we have Pyronade, something also available on all classes. Not really worth it, and if you're thinking, oh, well, I want to be able to, you know, say cash out's right above, burn whoever's on cash out when they start to steal. You can do the same thing with the Pyromine. Exact same thing. Alright, last bad gadget, also available on all classes, is the frag grenade. So, we'll say you hit pretty much dead center, you know, almost 1 shot to life. Frags are pretty decent. You can just use RPG. RPG does a little less damage, while also not taking any time, so it's instant. See, it's very minimal damage difference. It is instant, it is a lot more range, you get a lot more range out of it, and it also has destruction, not to mention instant destruction, allowing you and your team to push to cash out if you're defending it, push to cash out to attack it. RPG is just objectively better. Now we can move on to the best gadgets on heavy, starting with the RPG, as just mentioned. So the great thing about the RPG is, for example, a weapon like the flamethrower, weapons that are range capped, where, you know, you hurt someone really badly, but they're getting away, just pop an RPG at them. RPG is an insanely good tool at just cleaning up players that are low health, that are getting away from you, as most of the heavies weapons are close range. Other than the Lewis gun, the 50 akimbo, every single other weapon has terrible range past about 10 to 20 meters. So the RPG is very valuable for that, as well as the instant destruction, as mentioned a second ago. RPG can also be a great initiator as you start a fight. RPG and then, you know, flame, or RPG and shotgun, whatever you want to be. I personally like to use it to clean up. However, also very good in that regard. Okay, next we have the C4. So C4 is not very good at combat, but it's amazing at stalling. So say, you know, there's a cash out on the top floor here, you're right under it. You know, someone goes to steal it, just boom, drop them right into your line of fire, sledgehammer, flamethrower, shotgun, whatever you need. It can also be used for suspended structures. Breaking down the grapple points will take down the whole structure, as well as you can stack an infinite amount of C4, at least as far as I believe. I've never hit a cap. So if you have 3 C4 on a point, 4 C4 on a point, someone goes to capture and they don't clear it, they are instantly killed. However, most people will generally clear it, and you'll know when they clear it, and it'll, you know, cause them to take a little more time. Now we have the lock bolt. This thing is exceptional. It allows you to lock down someone to where they essentially can't escape. It has to land close to them, and it will chain them up, and then the chain will show you exactly where they are. So even through smoke, you can still see their general direction. It works really well with a flamethrower, sledgehammer, shock, anything that you need to be close range for to prevent people from escaping. The lock bolt can also be used to pull the cache out. So attach it to any arena, carryable, throwable, barrel, plant pot, anything you can pick up as a heavy, and then just run. Make sure you are on solid ground, because if you do end up off the ground, you'll be pulled back to the cache out. You can also do some funny business with a bounce pad if you have a medium on your team. It is inconsistent. Sometimes you can get it bouncing in the air, sometimes it barely goes off the ground, sometimes it goes flying. I'm not really sure the science of it, but you can test it out. You can also, you know, like I said, use it to pull it really, really far. So, like, look at this clip, 20 to 30 meters of pull distance, and then I'm also able to use a jump pad to pull it straight up to the roof. Alright, now moving on to smoke grenades, also available in every class. They don't work exceptionally well with heavy. However, if you were running a melee build, like on a sledgehammer or a shotgun, pretty much if you need to, if it's a more open map, like say Soul or Sis Horizon on certain points, the smoke can enable you to play more close quarters, because as I said before, most of the weapons on heavy are close quarters. And then pyro mines, as mentioned before, are just very good. Possibly the best mines in the game. Gas mines are also really well. Enemies take massive damage and it leaves fire, so very useful. As stated before, you can use it to hold under a cache out. Might light yourself on fire because we got a big health pool for. Can be used for underneath. Pyro mines are also amazing gadgets. You just chuck them in front of a doorway that you can close, you know, such as, here, let this bot go by. Such as this. Anyone that runs through this doorway, not gonna be able to see it. Anyone who goes up a zip, you just see where the zip lands. Top of stairways. There's a bunch of places where you know, can tell that people will see it far too late, and they're just going to get hit with it. Not so much you can pair it with flamethrower or other such weapons where you can detonate it midair to mess with people. Alright, now we move on to the defensive options. So we got barricade, goo grenade, and dome shield. All three of these more or less serve the exact same purpose, giving you a defensive option in case you're caught out in the open or you want to fortify a specific position you want to hold. Both barricades and goo grenades you can climb on top of, so you can use them to do some parkour and get to places you might not be able to normally. My only gripe with barricades is if there's anything blocking them at all, the edge of a box, the edge of a doorway, you need complete open space, otherwise you'll just be mashing your left click while someone shoots you, and there's nothing you can do. I don't like barricades simply because I can't just, you know, goo grenade off a doorway and I know I'm good. Barricades have a lot of HP that can't be burned by goo, and they're very tall. You can see there's a tall as a heavy, so a medium or a light is going to be smaller. They're not going to be able to shoot over. They're going to have to climb over going through that animation. Very, very good. Now, goo grenades add more cover, however they can be burned. That being said, though, they do take their sweet time to burn. Like, they don't go away super quickly. Like, I'm still talking. There we go. Oh, almost. Come on. There we go. Dome shield is a temporary barrier that is a one-way, shoot barrier specifically for you and your team. So, for example, I'm standing here. He tries to shoot the dummy. He's hitting me. Even if he's inside the barrier, he cannot shoot me. And of course, if he's outside the barrier, he can also not shoot me. It does, however, have a limited time, and you can see it's breaking as it gets shot. It timed out before it broke. Most teams either can't shoot through it or take significant firepower, aka a large portion of their magazine, to shoot through it. It can also be used as a pushing tool, so you can throw it and then stand where you're going to throw it. And then, so they've seen you and they want to engage you, but then you all of a sudden have a shield that you preemptively threw, causing them to have to run, or attempt to push you in your shield, in which you can, back out of your shield and push back in if they push out, and do all those sorts of mind games. Now that we've gone over all the defensive options, I must say you have to run one of these, at the minimum. If you do not have a dome, mesh, barricade, or goo grenade, you're just throwing. You have to have, at minimum, one of these shields to be able to make yourself cover, or buy yourself, time if you're out in the open to get behind cover. If you do not have at least one of these, you are throwing on heavy. I have never seen a heavy without one of these four. You must have one of these four. Period. I would recommend having two of them. I am personally a mesh shield main. I like to use mesh and goo or mesh and dome. It is completely up to you, but I would recommend two, but have at minimum one. Alright, now moving on to the special stats on heavy. First of all, you're fat. You literally have the largest hitbox, and shotguns are very powerful against heavies. So you've been warned, if someone has a shotgun, be oh so careful. Secondly, you have the furthest throw distance. So you can see from here, I'm going to line myself up with this right here, and just throw. And as you can see, it goes roughly to where that A is at, pretty far. However, a light would not throw it nearly as far. It wouldn't even make the edge of this platform. Another thing you notice on heavy is that you are very slow and you essentially have no movement abilities. You might have sledgehammer or goo gun as a specialization to help you out, but normally you might not, or it takes a long time to get up even if you have those. So holding a high ground, such as using zips to hold a high ground, or using goo grenades to, get an even higher position, or barricades to get an even higher position. Just make sure that you have a good position, as escaping a bad position and getting to a good one is a lot harder compared to a light who can simply just bail with a dash or bail with a grapple and get out of there instantly. Alright, now the most important thing is your health regen. So here are the exact stats. Lights heal after 7 seconds, heavies heal after 10, and then mediums are at 9. You might think, oh, it's only a 3-second difference. So here's the important thing. The actual health regen, how much you heal at a time, is the exact same regardless of the class. It's not percent based. So you can see it takes me 10 seconds to start regenerating, and it will take me another 6 to 8 seconds, depending on my health, to actually get up to full health. So taking a single hit of damage from any source will throw it off. And just as comparison, I'm showing you guys light. So it's going to be several seconds. However, when I do start regenerating, it's going to be very, very quickly in comparison. Now, final thing I want to cover is have the right items in reserve and use the right weapons and loadout for the right map. For example, on Cis Horizon, a large portion of the map is very open. Probably don't bring Sledgehammer. Like, you probably could make it work. You might be able to use goo grenade and smokes. However, it just makes it a lot harder versus something like Bernal. Bernal is at very close quarters, and you can make close range weapons work a lot better there. For example, here I have Winch Claw with Sledgehammer, and if I need to swap off to the Shack, say it's Cis Horizon or Soul, I can make that work. And then I also have Dome Shield to swap off, and then if it's floating platforms or something, I also have like a C4 to stall. So what you want to do is you want to have options in your loadout. And for example, my other main loadout, I have the Shack, Flamethrower, and Minigun. If it's a light-dominated lobby, I use Flamethrower, as it's better against lights. If it's a heavy-dominated lobby, I use Minigun. If it's in between, I use Shack, because Shack's an amazing all-rounder. Then I also just have various gear to use depending on what I feel I need. And that's going to wrap up this guide. It doesn't go over every tiny niche detail, but it goes over the vast majority of the relevant gear, combinations of gear, strategies, and such. If you have any questions, no matter what you think it's about on heavy specifically, ask me in the comments. I will get back to as many of you as I possibly can, because there's a lot more specific niche things. And if you guys request, I could make a video on, let's say, Flamethrower or the minigun, going into the very specifics of how to use that weapon to its best. I would also greatly appreciate a like and sub. This took me a lot of time to create, a lot of editing, technically researching the stats. Oh, that wasn't too long. I would the like and sub would greatly benefit me. Or if you just like the content, just go for it. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. Until the next one.